Sumant, you can start presenting.
Okay, sure. I think I need permissions to share the screen.
Sure.
Okay, uh, so welcome class. This will be our final lecture on Introduction to Python Programming. And by the end of the class, I will also introduce you to the Raspberry Pi. We will look into the what the board has to offer us, as well as how to install operating system upon the single board computer Raspberry Pi. So for the first uh, half an hour, we'll be discussing about files and exceptions and how do you handle exceptions with Python. In the half of the class, I'll be introducing you to Raspberry Pi. And from the next class onwards, we'll be implementing projects upon Raspberry Pi. We'll be writing a few programs, and we'll try to implement our projects step by step upon the Raspberry Pi. So let's get started for the day. First, let's discuss about files and exception. Now, uh, there are different types of files. Uh, the well-known files that we use are a text document, a word processor, an image editor, or a spreadsheet, or we call it as an Excel sheet. And we also have games, and sometimes we also have our web browsers or HTML files, right? So these are the most uh, common softwares or packages that we use in our daily life. Now, uh, can you tell me the process of how you open a file in Windows, or how you create a new file uh, upon your operating system? Anybody can share with me. Okay, uh, suppose say I need to create a text document. How do I do that? I will simply right click upon my screen or at some location, and I will say create new document, and I will create an empty text file. I can as well create an empty Word file, empty image file, empty spreadsheet, or an Excel file. And we save our files with an extension called as .txt, .doc, etc. Can you name any other uh, extensions or file extensions that you use on a regular basis? Just share it with me. Are are you with me in the class? Yeah,
Guys are too silent today.
are everybody able to hear me? Yes, anybody speaking?
Yeah, Madhav is saying yes. Others, are you able to hear? If you can unmute and then just verbally say yes, guys. Let's go ahead, Suman.
Yeah, okay. I didn't expect this silence from you today. Okay, so we do have different types of file extensions, and using Python, we can create different types of files. Now, why do we need to learn about files in Python? Is that we do get some data uh, from our Python programming, and we may have to save our data for a later use. Like we need to save our data upon our hard disk, and we need to refer it back once we need it again. Say you created some Python program today, and you generated some output, and you want to refer this output after a month or so. Suppose say you took some data from your project, and you have written this data collected into an Excel file. For example, let's say you have collected the temperature details uh, of your room, and you want to save this temperature details in an Excel sheet, and you want to refer it after 1 month. So how can you do that? You have to open up a file using Python. You have to write data into the file, then close the file, and then uh, refer it once again. So let me just see how we can create a file. I will I will generally show it to you by taking any operating system as an example. So I am right clicking something, and I am saying create new folder or create new file. So in this way, I am able to create new files, and I have multiple extensions of my files. For example, I can have Python files. Now, what are the extensions of my Python files? I save it with .py, right? So anything with .py, I can say it to be a Python file. Now anything with .docx, I can call it as a Word document. Anything with XLSX, I can call it an Excel sheet. Okay. So similarly, I have other types of files as well. For example, anything with extension .png is a image file. Similarly, I have other types of image files like .jpeg, .jpg, .pdf. So we have uh, different types of files, and I differentiate between different types of files by the extension that I provide. So with Python, you can create multiple files, and you can save them so that you can use it for uh, a later day for multiple purposes. Now, there are uh, two types of file operations that you majorly do. One is called as the write operation. That is, you write some data into your file, okay, and then you can also read data from a file. Suppose, say, I have a file inside my disk. Suppose, say, it could be a DVD, or it could be a Blu-ray. So upon a disk, I have different data, and I store my data into different sectors upon my disk. Now, in order to write data into a file, what would I do is I take some data, and then I transfer it to my RAM, and my RAM in turn transfers it to a disk. So I have given an example of a CD-ROM over here, but we can this disk, it can also be your hard disk, or a solid state drive, or it could be even a flash drive as well. Now, you can as well read data from a file. Like, you can open up a file and read some data uh, from the file, and you can store it in some variables. So these are the major operations that happen in a file. So this lecture, it mainly focuses on how to write data into files and read data from files. So there are three steps that must be taken when a file is being used. First is opening a file or creating a file. Correct. So suppose, say, I want to create an Excel file. What do? I will simply go to my documents, and here I will say create a new folder or create some file. Uh, uh, so I can right click and I can create new files. So that is what I meant by my first step: open a file. So opening a file itself will create a connection between the file and the program. So you can open up a file using a simple command in Python. I will show it to you, and then opening an output file usually creates a file upon the disk. Like, once you give this command in Python, it will automatically create a file upon your disk, and it will allow a program, and the program will allow you to write data into the file. Okay, so the first step is to open up a file. The second step is to process the file, which means in the step, either you write some data into the file or read some data from the file. Yes, so suppose, say, you want to type something in an Word document. So what do? You first open up a file, then write some data into it, then save it, and you finally close the file. So inside Python as well, we'll have to use three such commands to first open up a file, process the file, and then close the file. Closing a file is nothing but disconnecting the file from the program, which means you are closing the connection from the of the file from the program. Opening a file is creating a connection. Closing a file is disconnecting the connection. Okay. So before we look into the methods on how we open up a file or close a file, So there are um, different file access methods called as a sequential access and a direct access. Now, when you work with sequential access, you access data from the beginning of the file to the end of the file. But whereas in a direct access method, you can access uh, a file at any point. Now, I will give you a simple example on how we can or what the concept that I actually mean over here. Suppose say I open up a Excel file or a Word document like this. Okay, so this is my Word document, and I say this is a document. Okay, now and say I have some 100 lines over here written to it. Now, the first method is called as the sequential access. Inside the sequential access, when you open up a file, you read from the beginning of the file, which means you read it from the word this. But whereas in a direct access method, suppose say you have 100 lines, you can access from any point in the middle, from the last, or uh, from wherever you wish to. Okay, so so that is the basic difference between the different file access methods. One is the sequential access, another one is the direct access. Now, when we work with sequential access, you basically access data from the beginning of the file to the end of the file. If you want to read a piece of data that is stored at the very end of the file, what you have to do is you have to read all the data um, uh, before it and you cannot jump directly to your desired data. So that is one disadvantage with sequential access. You'll have to read the entire document in order to go to your desired data. But whereas in a inside a direct access, you can directly jump into the piece of data. Okay, so that is the main basic difference between a sequential access and a direct access. Okay, so now let's see on how we can open up a file in Python. So in order to open up a file in Python, there's a keyword called as open. So you need to use the open function in Python to open a file. Now, the open function, it basically takes two arguments. The first argument is the file name, and the second argument is your mode. Okay, let us try to explore the different types of file variables and the different types of modes that we have. Okay, so a file name is basically a string. Suppose say I have um, a document called as aadharcd.docs. So this forms my file name. Okay, and then I have three different modes in which I can open a file. Now we have discussed that we basically have to open files to do two things. Either we read from the file or write from the file. So mode is actually specifying what we intend to do from the file. Okay, so there are three modes in which we can open a file. The first mode is called as the R mode or the read mode. So this is an example over here of how we can open up a file. Suppose say uh, I want to suppose say I want to open up a text file. What do I need to do is I will do this thing, open file name. Suppose say I want to create a text file. So what is the extension for a text file? It is generally .txt. And then suppose say I want to open it up in a write mode. So in order to write some data, I can open it up in a write mode. In order to read it, I can open it up inside a R mode. Okay, so I can do this. Now my text file, it has opened up inside a write mode. So let us see if something like that has been created. Okay, so it says test.txt and it is 0 bytes. Now why it is 0 bytes? Because I have just created a text file in write mode and I did not uh, do any operations upon it. Let me just open up the properties and see when this text.test.txt was created. Okay, it says uh, it was last modified upon on 16th May 2020 at 8:23 p.m. IST. So right now the time is 8:24 in India, and today's date is 16th May. So I have just modified my file uh, today itself. So that this is how you open up a text file in different modes. So we have three modes in which we can open up a file. The first one is a read mode, the second one is a write mode, and the third one is an append mode. Now, these two are writing operations, this is a reading operation. Okay, so there's the basic difference in between a write mode and an append mode is that when you open up a file inside in write mode, uh, it will, if a file already exists, then all its contents will be erased, and if it does not exist, then it will create a new file. Okay, so that is one thing that actually happens in write mode. Now you should be careful enough when you are opening these kinds of documents in write mode, because there is a risk that all your contents will get erased. Okay, so now here if you could see that though this file it was created in on 4th of October in 2018, it still says 0 bytes because I have tried to access this file today. What it has done is it has erased all my contents, and it will start from the beginning. Okay, Now you can avoid your contents to be erased by opening a document in append mode. A stands for append. So now what actually happens when you are opening a document in append mode is it will open a file to be written to, and then all the data, it will be appended to your document at the end. Okay, so suppose say you have a document, you have a text document which contains 10 lines, and when you open up a document in append mode, it will go to the end of the 10th line and it will add the data from that point. But whereas if you open up a file in write mode, even though your document it contains some data, it will directly erase entire contents of data. So you need to be really careful on what mode you're choosing for writing the data. Use W mode only when you are confident enough that you're opening the file for the first time, or you're creating some temporary files. Okay, but whereas in write mode, no, sorry, in read mode, you can open a file for reading mode only. And when you open up a file in read mode, you cannot write contents to it. Okay, so this is the basic difference in which what we can open up different documents. Now, what actually happens is when you open up a test document uh, and you do not specify the path, it will generally create a document in the folder in which your Python is running from. So it might create a folder inside C colon users Python. So there's a folder for Python inside your Windows, and in the C drive, and it might create a text file by default at that location. But you can also open up a file at your custom location by specifying the entire path C colon users Blake temp test.txt. So when you specify a path like this, it will create a document at that particular location. Okay, so that is the main thing that you need to take care of. Now let's move on to a basic example of writing data into a file. Okay, so let me just write some data. Okay, so I've taken an empty file over here and say I I will define method, my main method, and inside this I will create a file called as open file some test.txt, and in order to write some contents into the file, I will have to specify the variable with which I have opened the file. So I'll have to use the open function and assign it to a variable. And using this variable, I will use another function called as write in order to write some data into it. Suppose say I want to write uh, my name into the file. Okay, out file dot write Suman. Suppose say this is my name, and this is how I write contents into my file. Okay, and then I'll have to close my file as well. So we had seen earlier that we need to do three things while doing files. First, we'll have to open up a file. So this is how I opened up a file, right? Step one will be to open a file. Yes, I have opened up a file using this way. Then comes my step two. Now, what is the step two that I have discussed? Process the file. Process the file in the sense I'll have to either write that data into the file or read some data into the file. Here, what I'm doing, I am write or read data into the file. So here I am writing few lines into my file. Then comes my step three. What is my step three? I'll have to close the file. Now, how I close a file is with the function dot close. So first I will create a variable using the function open. This is how I open a file. Then I read or write some data into the file, and then I close the file. Now let me run my run module. Okay, so it has basically it ran my piece of code. Now let me see if my test document is updated. Earlier you had seen that it was 0 bytes. Now it says 11 bytes. Now let me see what are the contents inside my file. What I have written inside in my code, I have written my name, Raja and Suman, right? Okay, so it says Raja and then Suman has been written in the next line. Okay, so now why is that? Because I have written my code in such a way that I have used a non-printable character backslash n. Now we had learned that backslash n is a new line character. So you could see that it did not write anything over here, but it simply went to the new line. Okay, so we had seen some non-printable characters earlier, like backslash t, backslash n, etc. So this is how I write my content inside my file. Similarly, I can create various types of files. I can as well create a doc file. Okay, so let me see if I can do this. Okay, so it says doc file is created. So docs. Let me try to search for that thing. Okay, so a test.docs also got created. Now let me try to open up this file. So it's opening up. Okay, so it says Raja and Snow. Okay, so this is how we create files in Python inside write mode. Okay, so now let us try to move on to a discussion on how we open a file in read mode. We have successfully written data into a file. Now let us see on how we can read some data into the from the file as well. Okay. Okay, so I will create another definition over here. Say def read operation. So I am creating another method over here called as read operation, and uh, I will create one file called as rd file or to read file, and then I will open my test.txt inside read mode. Okay, then what I'll do is I will read my uh, contents. Okay, so first what do I need to do inside file operations? Step one would be to open a file in read or write or append mode. Okay, so my step two would be to what would be my step two? Either write or read data from the file. Okay, so in order to write some data, I have used a function called as dot write. Now in order to read some contents, I will use my file operator rd file dot read. Okay, and what I need to do in step 3, I need to close my file. Okay, close the file. Id file dot sorry, yeah, rd file dot close. Then I'll have to call my read. I will simply call my read operation and not my main. So let me try to run. Okay, so it successfully read some data, but I have not I'm not getting any output over here because I have not printed anything over here. So let me add another print statement, file contents. Okay, and I will run. So here it has read the data from the file, and it has simply printed the entire contents of the file on my console. So this is how you actually read some data and write some data into the file. Okay, now you can append some data into the file as well, but in order to append some data into the file, you will have to open the file in append operation. You'll have to open a file inside append mode. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll try to copy the contents, but I will open my file in append mode. Okay, and I will simply add this is append data. Okay, So I am opening a file inside append mode, and I am uh, closing the file. Okay, so let me first try to call my append operation, and then I'll read the contents in my file. Now when I'm doing an append operation, what we have learned is it will add to the end of the file. Now when we open a file in write mode, it will simply erase the contents, but in append mode, it will retain the old contents, but it will add to the uh, original content. So my expected output should be, okay, sorry. So here I am reading the .txt. Okay, so this is the expected output. Now I have run the function twice. That is why I am seeing Raja Sugant at the first time, and when during the first cycle, I have appended my data. This is append, and then in my next line I had simply done data, and when I ran it twice, uh, again the statement got executed, and it got appended twice. So since I had ran this function twice, it got appended twice. So this is how you do data inside append mode. Okay, now you have a special type of file called as a CSV file. Do you know what a CSV file is? Okay, so let me try to open up a CSV files. Okay, so I have some CSV files over here. CSV stands for comma separated values. Okay, so there's a special type of file called as CSV. Okay, the extension of the file is called as CSV. CSV stands for comma separated values. Just close this file over here. Okay, so there's a special type of file called as CSV. Suppose say I want to create a CSV file. So what I can do is I will simply use commas to separate my values. Okay, so CSV stands for comma separated values. CSV comma separated values. So this is a special type of file which we will be using in basically to store information which are separated by commas. And generally the CSV files, they open up uh, with your Excel document itself. So when I try to do this, it will create a file. Okay, so it has created a file. Test.csv. Okay, I think I have multiple CSV files over here. But this is how a CSV file will look like, and we generally use a CSV file. Okay, so here I got it. So we generally tend to use such kinds of files to. Oh, sorry. I get the mistake over here. I did not call my run file. Uh, okay, so let me. Okay, so this is the CSV file. Now I can create a file with .csv extension, and it will directly open up inside my Excel document. Now, the main purpose of me discussing a CSV file is that uh, we will be executing some projects in Python. We'll be executing projects for within the Raspberry Pi, and we'll be collecting some data from the sensors. The sensors could be your one of the sensors that you had purchased, suppose say a temperature sensor, and you can log the data uh, of the temperature sensor into a CSV file, and you can use this data logged inside a CSV file as your local database itself. So you need not have any advanced database. You can just use this CSV file as your database, and you can read the data. Now, database is a software that people use to store some data, and this is a kind of a local database. Is that what we can think? And we can use it to plot your temperatures. You can use to plot the humidity in the air. So multiple examples will be seen in our coming classes, and you will know about the beauty of using a CSV file better at that time. But for now, I am giving you the knowledge of uh, what a CSV file is, and how you can write data into a file, and how you can read data into the file, the CSV file. Okay, so let me see that thing open. Okay. So here you could see that this is the CSV file that I've written, and it says Raja in one column and Sumant in the other column. Now you do not see a comma over here because it will directly write into columns, though you separate it by a comma. So that is the beauty of a CSV file. I hope you have got the gist of what I am discussing today with files. Now let us move on to the concept of exceptions in Python. Exceptions are uh, some errors that might occur while running, and it might cause the program to abruptly halt, which means it will stop the execution of a program. Now, initially, and in one of the classes we had discussed that there's a difference in between your interpreted software and like Python and a compiler type software. Now the difference that we had talked about at that time is that Python gives you the flexibility to run your code, um, even though you have some errors in one of the line. Suppose say you have an error at the 99th line and you have written 100 lines of code. It will run up to the 98th line and say at the 99th line you have an error. Now suppose say you have 200 lines of code and you have an error at the 99th line. And even though if you have that an error at the 99th line and you want to continue running your program by simply ignoring that error, then also that also you can do in Python using the concept called as exceptions. So you are stating that, hey, I might expect such an error, but what I want you to do is uh, you can simply expect this error and you can continue the execution from the next line onwards. So now let us see mm, on how we can do the exceptions in Python. So you basically use two keywords to do exceptions in Python. The first keyword is called as the try keyword. Try and a colon, and as soon as you hit an enter, it will give one tab space, and then you can write your entire code inside your try block. And then at the last you can simply add an except statement. EXCEPT, remember the word except, and then the exception name that might occur, and then finally give the uh, statement so that it will continue to execute. Okay, so let us see different types of exceptions, and we will see on how we can handle them. So let me clear my space. Now, in our initial classes, I had given you a homework on trying out division operator, and then I had asked you to try out operations such as 0 by 0, 1 by 0, etc. Now, when I do a 0 by 0, let me see if this thing will run or not. It says 0 division error. Okay, now when I do 5 by 0, it says 0 division error. Now, what is this error? 0 division error. In mathematics, in math, anything divided by 0 does not make sense. Like it is not allowed inside mathematics that you divide a number by 0. So you should not be using a division by 0. It is basically a rule inside mathematics that any number divided by mathematics is undefined and it makes no sense. So when you make some such logical exceptions, an exception will be thrown, like a 0 division error. Okay, so in order to catch such exceptions, and suppose say you have uh, 10 such lines of code, and you want to execute these lines. So what you can actually do is you can write your statements inside a try block. Try print 1 by 0, and then what I am expecting over here, I am expecting a 0 division error. So I can simply copy this thing and I can paste it over here and say print, hey, you are trying to divide a number by 0, and then I'll say recheck your code. Okay, so when I get such an error, I can try to catch that error and print my custom statements. Okay, so this is actually pretty useful because when you do not do this, the execution of your program will stop at this point. But here, when I do such kind of exception handling, then I can execute my lines of code beyond the error as well. So that is the beauty of Python. It can uh, catch exceptions, something which low level programming languages like Python, sorry, like C, they cannot do. Inside, if you write some code in C programming language, it will not catch exceptions like this. Like it will not, it will directly throw an error, and you will not be able to do anything. Uh, if it is something logically incorrect, then you cannot do anything with it inside your C. But whereas in Python or advanced programming languages like Python, you can do exception handling in this way. Now let us see another type of exception is called as the like you can get a value error. Okay, so let me try to comment this thing out, and let me try to show you another type of exception. Suppose say I am inputting an integer number from a keyboard, say enter hours. Okay, and then uh, say let me try to convert my number of hours into minutes. Now what is the formula for me to convert number of hours into minutes? I will simply multiply it by 60. So I am declaring my minutes as whatever hours I get, I will multiply it with 60, and I will try to print my minutes. The minutes are, and then I will simply try to print minutes. Now let me try to run the program. It says enter hours. Suppose say I want to know the number of minutes inside 1 hour. It says the minutes are 60 minutes. Okay, so let me try to run it again, and when I say 25, inside 25 hours I have 1500 minutes. Okay, but when I run this program and I say instead of 1, the number 1, what if I give ONE? Now, what do you think would be the output when I do, uh, when I give
Value
print?
errors, no?
Yes, yes, yes. So when I give a 1, it will say okay, so when I enter 1, it says value error. Now, why is that a value error? Is I am trying to convert something to an integer, but when I give an input as ONE, it is unable to convert ONE, the word ONE, into an integer. So that is when it will raise a value error. It says value error, invalid literal I for int with base 10. So I can get this error because I cannot predict what my user will do for me. I cannot expect all my users to input from the number pad itself. They can as well type some data they want, and my program might logically fail at some point. So this is where I get a value error. So in order to catch my value error, what I can do is I can simply put inside my try statement. Okay, try, and then I will say accept, and I will simply copy this value error, copy, expect a value error, print, enter correct number. Okay, so when I run this again, and now when I give a string like 2, it says enter correct number, and it not throw any error from me because I am catching the error in this way. Now it might be possible that I have two such errors inside my single program. Okay, suppose say um, then here itself say I am trying to do this one as well. I'm trying to print my 1 by 0. So here I did not uh, write any code to handle the uh, 1 by 0 now, but even though I did not write code for 1 by 0, it started my execution. It says hours, enter hours, because it will go until this step, and it will then throw the error. Okay, so suppose say I entered a legitimate value, but then it throwed a zero division error. So how do I handle a zero division error at this point? Though I have handled the value error, uh, how do I handle a zero division error as well? Is I will simply write the zero division error handling as well as in this way. So multiple ways I can handle my zero division error. Okay, so enter hours 1, and then it did not throw any error because I have handled my error in this way. You can also do exception handling in a different way. Like instead of writing multiple such lines of code, what you can do is you can simply write except, and then you can write your code like some error in logic or code. Okay, so it says some error inside logic or code, and then when I run it, so this is how I can handle multiple exceptions using a single except statement. So do not worry if you have multiple exceptions inside your code. You can simply put it as except, and then you can try to catch a code uh, in this way as well. And then let us move on to our finally statement. Okay, now we are catching an exception, but we may have to execute some lines of code, even though when we have an exception. So even though if the exception is caused, we can execute some lines of code, and we can put a finally statement. Suppose say finally, then try to print some statement, or we can do some uh, handling over here. Suppose say create a list li of um, list of a range of 10. Suppose say I'm creating a list. My final aim is to create a list, so I can do this, and I can execute it over here. So it did execute this statement over here. It did create a list. So let me try to print that list. Print li. Okay, so it did execute, and it did create a list, and it is printing my list. So this is how you handle exceptions in Python, and this is how you write code to handle the exceptions. So let us move on to our next part of our session, that is introduction to the Raspberry Pi. I will just take 5 minutes to introduce you to a Raspberry Pi. I know that many of you have Raspberry Pis with you, and I now how many of you have received the Pi boards? Everyone or no one?
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, yes.
For the Pi board, is it like the module or like the entire computer itself?
It is a computer itself.
Oh, okay.
I will introduce you to what a Raspberry Pi is, and then
Which one are we supposed to get?
the Raspberry Pi 3B plus or 4, whatever is available.
Okay. Thank you.
So let me just try to start my video. Are you seeing my video over here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is
Yes,
my
sir.
this is the Raspberry Pi board I have over here, And you could see that this is a single board computer which basically has a few input output ports, a power socket, and uh, a HDMI socket. It also has an Ethernet socket over here. So this whole together is a computer. Okay, so this is a miniaturized computer which comes with an inbuilt RAM. So you and a processor over here. So you do see the processor. It is manufactured by a company called as Broadcom, and Broadcom generally manufactures ARM processors. Now, most of your Android smartphone, they come with a processor called as ARM, ARM. You can look it up in the internet. So the same processor is present inside the Raspberry Pi computer. Now, when we talk about our general computers, uh, it generally has an Intel processor or an AMD processor, but here it has an ARM processor, and this has a dedicated inbuilt RAM as well, a RAM circuitry. So it has around there are different versions of RAM available in the market for a Raspberry Pi. So this one is a 1.5 gig RAM. If you go for a Raspberry Pi 4 version 4, like I have the version 4 as well with me. So this is the version 4 board, and it comes with a 4 4 gigabytes RAM. Okay, so this is the version 4, uh, and this is the version 3V plus. Now, by looking at it, by simply looking at it, you might not know the difference, but there are a few differences in uh, version 4 and version 3. Either of it is acceptable. Now, what is the expectation from you people for the next class is simple. We need to load operating system on the Raspberry Pi. So how you actually do that is um, you take an SD card. Okay, so this is the SD card over here. So what you can do is uh, you can okay, so you can take an
Oh no,
SD.
you did order the wrong one. Apparently, this one, the one that you're supposed to get, has a micro.
Can you please repeat that question again?
Sir, I think he went to his dad to say something.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you will have an SD card adapter as shown as this, and you can simply insert the SD card inside your SD card adapter in this way, and you can plug it up to your computer, and it will simply mount inside your computer. Now, what you need to do is you need to go to this site. So you can just Google this thing, download Raspbian OS, and you can simply click on the first link. Okay, it will simply go to this particular location, and You can download the OS called as Raspbian, or you can as well download Nukes. But downloading Raspbian is easy. So what you need to do is you need to simply download this file, and you can use a simple software called as uh, Win32 Disk Imager. So this is the Win32 Disk Imager. You can find it from this particular site, and you need to install this Win32 Disk Imager upon your Windows operating system, and it will simply ask for a location of where your downloaded ISO file is. Uh, so downloaded ISO file, it will look in this way. Okay, let me see if I already have it. I do not have it. So you will have a .iso file. You can simply download this .iso file, and you can download this Win32 disk imager, and it will ask you for the location at which that particular thing is present, and you can simply hit on it and start the burning process. So once the burning process is completed, um, you can simply unplug the SD card from your computer, and you can replug it into your Raspberry Pi device in this way. And then you can power on your Raspberry Pi by connecting it to a USB adapter, and this HDMI cable over here. So you can just connect the HDMI cable to your HDMI TVs, and your computer will be ready to boot up. And you also have a provision for USB over here, so you can connect a mouse and a keyboard at this USB location. So all you need to do is download the operating system and install it on the SD card. It is pretty straightforward thing. I think you kids will be able to handle it. If you have any doubts, then you can ask me or take help from your parents. So I will be sharing this deck with you, which has the instructions over here on what you need to do. But here it says select the Raspberry image. It's a pretty old image, but you can simply download the latest one from raspberrypi.org/downloads. You have all the instructions in this particular slide over here. So just download this thing, and once you get your images ready, you can connect it to a TV, and you can just play with the computer. Okay, so from the next class onwards, we will start programming on this Raspberry Pi. So that's it for today. In my next class, we will see what this board is actually made up of, and we'll try to explore more upon the board. Okay, so I will try to answer your questions, whatever I have received in chat after the class. So that's it from my side for today. Um,
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. We'll meet next on Monday night or Monday morning, 11 o'clock EST and 8:30 p.m. IST. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
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 Thank you, sir.